Slave labor was abolished under the 13th Amendment, except for in cases where a judge has sentenced somebody to labor. Basically, once we get in prison, they try to punish us with doing jobs and work. Even when you work in prison, you're only making 20-some cents an hour. But what they're saying is, if you're issued a job and you're forced to take this job, then it is additional to your sentencing. Like if you're sentenced to 26 years like I was, then you get to prison and they say, okay, you gotta work, you gotta sweep these floors. But then I say, fuck you, I ain't sweeping no floors, bro. And they turn around and give me a charge and it winds up taking my good time. That is sentencing me to more than I was sentenced to. If you're sentenced to 26 years in prison, then you should serve 26 years in prison and any additional good time knocked off. They shouldn't be allowed to use jobs and work and put you into a workforce inside the prison and then use it against you and take your money or your good time because of it. I have a video on here I will also link in the description where it's titled Therapeutic Charges, where I got charges at Indian Creek Correctional Center for refusing to work. And what they did, they took my money and they took more good time from me. So I went home later than I was supposed to because I refused to work. They say in prison, if they issue you a job, you are supposed to go and you have to go, blah, blah, blah. Well, nah. The 13th Amendment strikes that down. The 13th Amendment says that slavery is abolished even for prisoners, except in cases where a judge has sentenced you to labor. Anything else is illegal slave labor. And the advocates are doing a good job pushing it right now. Watch the video.
Criminal justice reform has been a constant theme in Colorado politics for many years, including lesser penalties for certain crimes.
Now people are looking into ways to reform how inmates are treated, specifically work that one group is calling slave labor. You met with a former inmate who's helping lead the charge against labor practices in prison.
Yeah, guys, some prisoners are accusing the state of violating its own anti-slavery law by forcing them to work and punishing them for opting out of their assignments. Now, this has been a long battle for prison reform advocates who say Governor Polis has a chance here to show some humanity.
I operate from a very extreme position that people deserve second chances.
From the penitentiary to the park, Taj Shahid fights for Coloradans behind bars. He spent 10 years in prison, working on himself and working whatever task was required.
I had a job once that was literally raking dirt.
Labor varies, and some prisoners refuse to comply. Taj says it's not because they're lazy. He's helped many anxious to work after release.
They didn't just get that spirit because they got out. They have that while they're in. They're seeking some meaning as they do time. With a lack of meaningful work, there's this pushback on the idea of working these menial jobs for cents a day.
According to the Department of Corrections, eligible offenders are required to work and face consequences if they refuse.
You can lose the ability to earn time off your sentence. You can lose the ability to transfer to a lesser secure facility.
Last year, there were over 100 incidents of prisoners failing to work.
When you are punishing people for not working, that is slavery.
Kim Gray and Kamau Allen both have loved ones in the system. They're working with End Slavery Colorado to stop forced labor and better equip the 95% of prisoners who re-enter society.
There's a habit in this country to disregard the humanity of people who have been incarcerated.
The lawsuit filed against Governor Polis and the DOC claims the threat of lost or withheld good time and earned time coerces people incarcerated in the DOC to work for fear of spending more time in prison than they otherwise would.
Going to prison is the punishment, right? It should not be we're punishing you and.
Prison reform advocates gathered here this month as their concerns continue to go unaddressed. Colorado's Constitution says there shall never be either slavery or involuntary servitude. They say there should be no exceptions.
These people still are human and they still have value, including their work.
Now, this effort is happening on a national level as well. Some states still have a slavery loophole that enables this type of labor. Now, advocates also want to see state prisons offer more meaningful work that will translate to jobs after they're released. And guys, at the very least, this group is asking for a conversation with Governor Polis. He says he will not comment on pending litigation.